my beautiful bookish friends, I'm Bowen and welcome to my May wrap up. Considering I read every single day in the month of May, I only read 11 books, whereas my average is about 15, 16. I've read the least amount of books that I've read in possibly over a year, even though I read every single day. The math is not mathing. I don't get it either. Let's get into the 11 books that I read in the month of May. The first book I read in the month of May was The Hunter by Kieran Byrne. I gave this book a 3.75 and a 2 spice rating. Christopher is hired to kill Millie, but he just can't go through with it once he meets her, so he sets himself as her protector against the people that hired him instead. And the way that Christopher defends Millie and Jacob is just so sweet, and the fact that Millie doesn't need protecting all the time, she's not like a damsel in distress or anything like that. She goes full mama bear for Jacob, which is her son. For considering how this is like over such a short period of time, it still feels very much like a slow burn romance, and I love this book. It was so sweet. The action was so good. It had so much plot and the romance as well. I don't know whether this would be qualified as a dark romance, but I think it's like a dark romance for the people that don't read dark romance, if that makes sense, because he's like murder for hire. We give a villain a tragic backstory and we automatically love him. I mean, don't get me wrong, the true villain in this, I don't care what backstory you give him, he is irredeemable and he is 100% trash. But like our villain, him we love. I just wanted to give him a great big hug and hold him and tell him everything was gonna be okay. Even though, you know, he's an assassin. I just wanted to hug the assassin. The next book I read this month was That Time I Got Drunk and Saved a Human by Kimberly Lemming. I gave this book a 4.25 and I gave it a 2 spice rating as well. The original title of this was That Time I Got Drunk and Drugged a Dragon, and because she's been picked up by a traditional publisher, they didn't want the word drugged in the title, which I do, but the original title makes a lot more sense for the story, but I understand why she had to change it. This is a book about Dante and Cherry. Dante we meet in the first book in this series, and we also hear about Cherry in this series as well. You don't have to read these in order, I don't think, but like, you should, right? Because then the story's going to make a lot more sense, because it very much feels like we know something that the characters don't know, and I love that for us. I don't know whether these books are getting less spicy as the series goes on, or just in the first one I really wasn't expecting it at all, and by the point of the book 3, which this is book 3, I am now expecting it, and it just feels like there's less because it's not as surprising and I'm not as caught off guard by it. So I don't know. I like my spice. Now I'm expecting spice and I feel like there's just not enough of it. There wasn't really a whole lot of plot in this one. Cherry kind of gives a little bit of Gold Digger vibes, but in a way that's like fun and cute and endearing, not in a way that's like really fucking annoying. Dante was just adorable and awkward and really sweet, and he did not have a single clue, and it's just all of his internal monologue was just so fun. I loved him. He was great. I love this series. I love Kimberly Lemming's writing, and I will read every single thing that she puts out because these books are great. The next book I read this month was His Curvy Rejected Mate by Kate C. Wells. I gave this book a 3.5 star and a 2 spice rating as well. As you can tell from the title, this is a plus size romance, and our main character does get bullied for her size quite a lot. And the main male character is very dismissive of how this affects her. Like, he's very much like, this is just how it is in pack life and you just have to toughen up and get over it, basically. And he's very dismissive of that. Like, how is he gonna stand up for her when he can't even stand up for himself and like all of the pressure and everything that he's been put under? And that really bothered me. I feel like for his character being 23 in this, he should have like known better. Like, he was coming across as like very, very young and very naive. Like, I clocked him at 16 in my head and he was meant to be 23. Our main character Flora, she really learns to like grow and accept her body, and she really comes into her own, and I love her. But Alec, he does learn and he does get better, but it was just coming across as just really naive. and that just kind of took me out of the story a little bit, and I was a little disappointed in that. It just kind of felt like it's been done before, you know? The next book I read this month was Red Rising by Pierce Brown. I listened to this one on audio and I gave it a 4.5 rating. This story was so action-packed and so bloody damn brutal that, like, it is impossible to get bored with this story. So much happened and it was so fast-paced, but you still got that emotional punch when it was necessary. Listening to this audiobook was like watching an action movie, and I loved it. It was so good. I can't wait to get to the second one. This is free on Audible. In the UK, at least. I don't know about anywhere else in the world. But, like, really? Like, really? Because, wow. The second one is as well. I will be listening to the second one soon. The third one isn't, which is really annoying. But this was so good. The only thing that kind of brought this book down a little bit for me is the romance. I don't really buy the romance in this, but I find that that is what happens whenever I read a book that is written by a man that has the action and the adventure and the story, and all of that is great, but the romance that they put in there is not necessary, and it always lets it down for me, which is just such a shame. The next book I read this month was Mother's Day In by Leisha Cott. I gave this book a 4-star and a 4 spice rating as well. This is just a sweet, spicy, little smutty novella. This is my first Leisha Cott book, and I will be picking up more from the Hollow Knight series. While I don't like age gap romances, like, at all, for some reason when it's flipped and the woman is older, I don't mind it so much. And I do like in this one how they'd known each other for a really long time already, and it wasn't just an insta-love kind of thing, and he's been obsessed with her for years and years. The only thing that kind of bothered me is he had this plan in place to get her to fall for him, which just, it gives manipulation, and I didn't really like that. But overall, I love the smut in this. I loved the romance in this. It was just such a sweet, fun, sexy good time, and I will be picking up more by this author. The next book I read this month was A Witch's Guide to Fake Dating a Demon by Sarah Hawley. I gave this book a 4.5 star and a 2 spice rating. From exploding chickens to the bar-brawling bestie, this was so much fun. Our main character Muriel is a witch, and while she is really good with her plant magic, she is not very good at summoning, which her mother is really good for and is consistently on her case about. So she is trying to practice her summoning spells and everything like that, and she is trying to practice summoning flour so she can make a cake. And she accidentally summons Oz, our main character demon, and now that she has summoned him, she has to make a deal with him for her soul. And she is not about to make a deal with him, and until she does make a deal with him, he can't leave her alone. Like, he's not allowed to go anywhere until she makes this deal with him, so he is basically just following her around, trying to bug her enough to make some form of a deal with him. And they end up fake dating because it's the only way to get her mother off her back, and I love this. And Oz is not used to having a soul or having feelings. Muriel is just so sweet and so kind, and he falls for her so quickly and so easily, and I love them together. And Muriel's setting boundaries with her toxic ass family as well. We love to see it. The next book I picked up this month was Cursed by Marissa Meyer. From the good to the bad, I gave this one a 1.5 star. I was so bored. So fucking bored reading this book. I had to force my way through this. I read the first book in this duology in March, and I finally finished it in May. But, like, oh my god. I couldn't even tell you really what happens in this because of how little I give a shit. I promise to you, I read this entire thing. I might have skimmed the last 200 pages, but I definitely read it, and I could not tell you what happens because I don't think anything does happen in this book. It was so boring. and I was losing my mind trying to push through this book. If I was in the capability of DNFing books, this would have been one of them. Like, I read the first book back in March and I thought it was pretty decent. I gave it like a 3 point something, and this one, I don't care. I do not care anymore about these characters, about this story. It was just so dull. And I have the pretty special edition of it. Why do I have the pretty special edition of it? You know what, I couldn't even tell you. But I just did not have a good time reading this book. Like, I'm not even going to tell you what it's about because I don't want to waste my breath, I don't want to waste your time. The next book I read this month was You Should See Me in a Crown by Leah Johnson. I gave this book a 3.75. I really enjoyed this one. I thought it was really sweet and really cute. I mean, I don't really know how I feel about the black main character having the last name Lighty. It just makes me feel uncomfortable. But, you know, I'm a pasty ass bitch, so what I say has absolutely no fucking relevance and I'm not the person to speak on this topic. I love the relationship between Liz and Mac. I thought that was really adorable and I love them together. I thought that was so cute. I never really understood the whole wanting to be popular thing, but I do get it in this sense because she's trying to gain popularity in order to get prom queen so she can get a scholarship. I get it in that case, because it's not popularity for popularity's sake, like there's an actual purpose behind it. I think that I might be way past my YA era, but I do really love it because when it hits right, and I really did enjoy this. This was definitely so very sweet. The next book I read this month was Shipwrecked by Olivia Dade. I gave this book a 4-star and a 2 spice rating. I really did enjoy this. I love that both of the characters were plus size in this. It wasn't just her. It's not very often that you see a male plus size character in a book as well, and I loved that. I loved both of these characters together. Maria was just such a strong badass that 100% knew her worth, knew how to set boundaries and keep them with kindness and respect for others and herself, and I love to see that. I feel like most people are still learning how to do that, and she has it down pat, and it gives such hope to the people that are not only learning how to set boundaries respectfully, but also keep boundaries, because that is a whole separate thing. And Peter was sweet and stoic, and the banter between Peter and Maria was just so delicious. I was really hoping in this one there wouldn't be a third act breakup, but watching them both work through their issues and learning how to grow together as well was just, it was so sweet and so heartwarming, and I loved it so much. And I love this entire series. If you've not read these Olivia Dade books, then I strongly recommend that you do so, because I love all of them. I think they are absolutely fantastic. And celebrity romances that I actually get on board with, which is rare. The next book I read this month was Highly Suspicious and Unfairly Cute by Talia Hibbert. I gave this book a 4.75. This was so adorable. Like, my cheeks hurt reading this book from smiling so damn much. I was a little apprehensive going into this book because, again, not the biggest fan of YA, but like, why am I doubting Talia Hibbert? Why? I've never disliked one of her books that I've read, and I've read quite a few of them at this point. I've not read the entire backlist, but I've read quite a few. Why did I think she couldn't do YA? Just because she can write smut really well? Bad Bowen. The main character Brad has OCD, and I think the way he deals with it was written so well, and the way he just adores Celine as well. Celine is also dealing with her own issues of resentment and abandonment from her father, but for the rest of the people in each of their families, they do have really healthy family dynamics, which I love to see in YA. And I love that this book as well seems to go from friends to enemies to friends to lovers. Like, I love that trajectory, and their banter was just so sweet. I love this book so much. If you've not picked up anything by Talia Hibbert, or you've only read her adult romances, give it a try, because it's so adorable. If you're just having a bad day, pick up this book. And the final book that I read this month was Skyward Flight by Brandon Sanderson and Jancy Patterson. I gave this book a 4.5. This is a collection of 3 of the novellas from the Skyward world. Each of the novellas follows a different side character. The first book, Sunreach, follows FM. The second book, Redawn, follows Alanik, and the third book, Evershore, follows Jorgen. I am now completely caught up in the Skyward series. The last book before this one that I read was Cytonic, and I didn't really vibe with Cytonic all that much. It gave very middle book syndrome, but this one got me fully back in the world. I am fully ready to go, ready for Defiant coming out in November, and this one follows a lot of the side characters and what they get up to while Spencer is away. I love the action, the drama, the suspense, the romance, the political plot lines that happen in this book. It's so action-packed and so much happens. The fact that it's considered novellas is a little bit of a stretch because each of these stories is like 200 plus pages, and like, to me that's like a whole ass book. But I really enjoyed this. I had such a good time reading this. I listened to the first two on audio and I physically read the last one. It's so good. If you've not read any of the Skyward books yet, then I strongly recommend that you do so. Didn't really love Cytonic that much, but this one got me back into it. And that's where I'm going to be wrapping it up for today, because I have to leave for work in 10 minutes. So if you got this far into the video, leave a crown. Leave a crown emoji in the comments, but for now, thank you so much for stopping by. It's been lovely having you here, and I hope to see you in another video coming very soon. Bye.